Okay, so we've talked about the presence of teaching. Now let's go ahead and let's move on to the process of teaching. This is where the teaching actually gets done. So whereas presence is simply that relational component that the student brings to the classroom and that you bring to the classroom, now we're going to talk about process. Now, unlike presence, where the student is very much the center, process is going to be very much determined by you, the instructor. And that process has to include three things. Number one, it has to be organized. It also has to be communicated, and it has to be consistent. So your process in your classroom, whatever process or whatever form that takes, has to be organized, communicated, and consistent. Now, let's talk about the first things first. Organization. This is something that I can honestly say in the last semester or two I've struggled with a little bit, and this is coming from someone who has been an adjunct instructor for almost 20 years for Richland Community College. You see, when we went from a full in-person system to a full online system with no opportunity for me to come into the classroom and use those presence skills that I had developed over years and years of teaching, some of my tools were taken away from me. And so what the students had to rely on even more heavily than my presence covering over various holes or various hiccups that a student might encounter, instead of just being able to cover those with presence and personality, the students required even more organization. Because when you do not have direct and live contact with students, the organizational system that you use is going to be what the student looks to for what's my next step? What is accomplished? What do I need to do now? What's coming in the future? How do I manage my time? So whatever process you put together, it's gonna have that organizational element. Now, there's a couple tools that Richland uses that we can have that you can really put to use that are going to help you as an educator. Number one, there are some great guidelines, and we can put links to those in the materials, and some templates that have been put together to help you plan an 8-week course, a 16-week course. So there are some templates that can be used. Additionally, we also have Canvas. Canvas is an online learning management system, LMS, learning management system. Now, that learning management system is basically a repository into which you put all of your resources, all of the things you're going to refer to. You're also going to put discussion questions in there. You're going to put recordings in there, videos, maybe a Zoom. You're going to put that in there. You're also going to maybe put some reference charts. You're also going to use Canvas not just for things as a repository, but also a means for students to get the resources out, do what they're going to do that you ask them to do with them, and then return them to you. And that's a mark of a good organizational system. That it's not simply a one-way street where the instructor shares information with students, but also allows students to give feedback and communication back. That type of organizational system through Canvas, our learning management system, is very powerful. So Canvas is going to help you put it in order. Now, to be specific, there are lots of ways you could organize a class. You could organize it by task. You could organize it by chronology. You can organize it by, for example, in biology, by families and kingdoms, or by size even, working from the smallest to the largest or the largest to the smallest. But in most cases, when we start using a learning management system, we come and we find ourselves in a very linear system. Now, let me explain what I mean. Linear means straight line. And Canvas is very much a straight line system. When you go to Canvas, you will see a class, and that class will have various topics. And those topics, underneath each of them, will have resources or discussions or things that the student will have to respond to. And they will move basically from top to bottom in Canvas. They will also have tools like to-do lists or gradebook that they can look at. But we'll get into all of those details a little bit later. The short version of a linear organization system is it's an outline. What am I going to do first? What are the three main things I'm going to hit? Then underneath those three main things I'm going to hit, what are the sub points that I'm going to make? What are the resources and supporting arguments before I go to the next topic, and do the same over and over and over. That's a really good way to start, especially if you're new to teaching, because that means that this start to finish, in essence, Candyland map style of organization system is very much ingrained in almost every student, from, again, playing games, from working down to-do lists, from the technology that we all work with. So much of it is organized linearly that system is going to make sense to students. So, as we go forward in this little course, and as we look at Canvas, the program specifically, understand we're just basically taking that outline and we're putting that outline online for students to access, because that linear, direct, outline-based system tends to be something that students can interact with and react to pretty naturally. It is a little confining at times, but especially in this environment where we can't count on our presence to sometimes soothe or to cover over some of the questions that students have, our organization system needs to be that much stronger.